Sure. Okay, I think we should get going so that we try and finish off um, lock today, if we can, that is. So, as usual, let me just very briefly, unlike yesterday, where I did an elaborate recapitulating of what we had done before. This time around, I'll do a very brief recapitulation. We talked of the two stages of the state of nature. The first one has limitations. And the second stage sees the lifting of these limitations through the introduction of money, which is a metal and therefore does not spoil, and you can work harder and get more money. Oh, you can get more money, and therefore there is no problem of money, sorry, of sufficiency. We were saying that the second stage of the state of nature in Locke is representative of the capitalism and the kind of society that it unleashed. Locke believed that capitalism was a solution to poverty, and he also believed that individualism was the way to economic growth, and therefore he also supports natural rights and their retention. Okay, that's what we is one side of the picture. No barking. Okay, if you look at what we are seeing with Locke. Locke is also justifying inequality. He's justifying inequality as a natural construct and not really as a social construct. That's what he basically tries to tell us, that it is some kind of a natural construct. Now, when you talk about it being a natural construct, let us try to see how it is a natural construct. Okay, he is saying that all human beings are equal in the sense that all human beings have been endowed with a sense of with what am I saying? Sorry, with rationality. All human beings are equal because they all have rationality. But he doesn't stop there. He goes on to say all are rational, but not all are equally rational. Some are more rational than others, and these people can be identified by the fact that they are able to amass more wealth than the others. So this is actually if you don't get a very correct understanding of Locke, this is actually something which, how should I put it? It is something that can possibly confuse his readers. Now, why do you have to say, if you're going to end up with the statement that not all people are equal, okay? If you're going to end up with that kind of statement that not all people are equal, then the question that comes up is, why are you saying that they are all equal because they all have rationality? You're saying all are not equally rational. Some people have more rationality, some people have less of it, and those who have more have demonstrated that they have more amounts of rationality by amassing more wealth than others. Now, to say this, why do you have to say what comes before this, which is all human beings are equal in the sense that all of them have been endowed with rationality? What is the relevance of that statement? Why are we making that statement at all? Why can't we just say all human beings are rational, but some are more rational? Why do we have to say that all human beings are equal because they have all been given rationality by nature? Why do we have to use that word equal there? Why do we have to use the word equal there? Okay, that is the key point that you need to remember. What you can simply say all human beings are rational, but some are more rational, and those who are more rational have more money, or they have earned more money than the other people who are a little less rational, right? That is what you can legitimately ask as a question. Why this word equal? Why does it have to figure in Locke's system of thought? Why is he so keen to emphasize that nature has endowed all human beings with rationality, and all human beings are therefore equal because they all have rationality? Why does he have to say this? You might think it is a superfluous thing, it's an unnecessary thing. But that is not an unnecessary thing. If you're John Locke, if you don't say that, all human beings are equal because they have all been endowed with rationality, then you cannot establish, without saying this, you cannot establish that all inequalities in society are created by nature and not by society. Okay? They are created by nature and not by society. So what exactly are we saying? I told you that the second stage of the state of nature, like the first stage, is an experimental stage. And if you remember the quotation that we discussed yesterday, the grass that my horse bit, the turf that my servant cut, and the ore that I have dug out from somewhere in nature is mine by my labor. That's what Locke is saying. Now, given Locke's system of thinking, given his system of thinking, it is quite obvious that the ore that you have dug out from somewhere in nature is yours by your labor. Because he said, remember, in the first stage, he said, everything belongs equally to all. All things in nature belong equally to all people. And that's why he put in those three limitations: spoilage limitation, sufficiency limitation, and the labor limitation. So he did that. Now, I told you what is the justification. The justification for private property, which he introduces again in the state of nature itself, is the justification for that is that if you take something in nature, and something in nature belongs to everyone equally, but if you take something in nature, I gave you the example of clay. Clay belongs to everyone equally, but if you're able to mold the clay, if you're able to mold that clay into a doll, or into a figurine, or into a statue, if you're able to do that, then what have you done? You have expended your creativity, you have expended your energy, you worked on creating that doll. Even before the doll was made, you envisioned how the doll or the figurine would look like. How it would look like, you already envisioned it in your mind. And then you spent your physical energy into creating that as you spent your creative energy into creating that as a doll that you envisioned. So both mentally and physically, that is now an extension of yourself. It's your vision, your work, which has gone into making of clay into a figurine. So if that is the way it is, then it goes without saying, that, you know, the ore that you have dug out from somewhere in nature is yours by your labor. Simple enough. You've labored, you've dug that ore from out of nature, so it's yours by your labor. But what about the other two? The grass that my horse bit, that also I told you, if you have tamed a wild horse, then that horse is now your property, because you have put your energy, put your intelligence into taming that wild animal into something that is domesticated. So that horse is yours. Now, whatever belongs to the horse belongs to you, because the horse itself belongs to you. Okay? Though we don't say it, when I was in school, I really wanted a bicycle. And when I finally got a bicycle, I was very happy. But one day I still have this very bad urge for speed. Okay? I look like Ganpati, but if you give me a vehicle, I'm extremely fast. People have been stunned seeing this huge fat fellow driving a motorcycle extremely fast. Okay, and so what I did is that even when I had a cycle, I used to really cycle very fast. And one of my favorite activities was to test how fast I can cycle. So I used to go to the tank bund. I don't know how many of you are from Hyderabad and how many of you have actually seen the tank bund road. So I used to go to the tank bund road and then I used to start cycling, and I used to race scooters and motorcycles. I used to race scooters and motorcycles. Those were the days when I was thin. I'll show you those photographs someday so that you actually believe that this big fat elephant, no, elephant is too small, humpback whale. Okay, I am like that now, but in those days I was a quarter of my size or less, perhaps. And I used to cycle very fast and compete with scooters. And one day, as luck would have it, in my uh, enthusiasm to overtake a scooter, I, I was pedaling away furiously. And instead of being on the left side of the road, I got into the middle of the road and I was competing with this scooter. I overtook him and I said, I overtook him. I'm feeling great. I felt wonderful. I came home, locked up my cycle. I went up to my house and my dad was sitting there and he said, have you locked the cycle? I said, yeah. He said, give me the key. I said, why? He said, just give me the key. I said, okay. I gave him the key. He said, now forget about the cycle. Now forget about the cycle. And I was completely shocked. I was taken aback. I said, why? Why can't I have the cycle? He said, you were so busy cycling in the middle of the road, trying to overtake a scooterist. You didn't even realize that I was right behind you. I was right behind you, and I was trying to accelerate to try to tell you to slow down, but I couldn't stop you because you just kept going. You are a danger to yourself and you're a danger to others. So he said, I'm taking the keys. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I'm his son. In that sense, I belong to him. It was he who bought me that cycle. So what belongs to me belongs to him. So he said, no cycling for you. Now, what happened after that is a long story. I managed to get back to my speeding ways and got caught again. So that's again a different story. But since I am his son, I belong to him. And since he bought the cycle for me, he had the right to take the keys away. So that is the logic of the horse. You tamed the horse. Now, whatever belongs to that horse is yours because the horse is yours. You have tamed it by your labor. But the the turf that the servant cut doesn't work like this. So I told you yesterday that you have capitalism. What differentiates capitalism from pre-capitalist societies is the exchange relationships. The main building of relationships in a capitalist society are done through exchange relationships. They are done through exchange relationships. Okay, so you go to a shop and you pay some money and buy what you want. That's an exchange relationship. I used to think that the only exception to these exchange relationships are childhood friendships. I used to think that. I used to think when we are children, we don't know who we are, what we are. We don't know. And even if you knew that somebody is a Muslim or somebody is a Christian or somebody is a Hindu, it really didn't matter. It didn't matter. So I thought the friendships that you build while you're children in that phase of innocence, those I thought were not exchange relationships. But I have realized in life, and I don't want to philosophize about that, I have realized that as we grow older, these also take on the form of exchange relationships. They may not be exchange in terms of commodities. They are also relationships that are built on the exchange of ideas. At one time, I could say I have 40 friends. At one time, I could say that. Now, I don't know if I have any friends at all. I don't know. Okay, most of them have gone off, but that is not a reason to say that I've lost a friend, because these days you have all kinds of ways in which you can keep in touch with people. You can even, when we were uh, in school, there was an essay in Hindi. I forget who wrote it. In that, this man predicted that phones in the future will have images of people also coming, not just the voice. It's not just the voice, you can also see the person. I forget it. I think it was Acharya Agnyay who wrote this particular essay. And then it sounded like rubbish. But what is it today? I don't even know where all you are. All I only know that Rachna is somewhere near. Uh, she's somewhere near Nizamabad. I know that Afrin is somewhere near Jadcherla, Mehboob Nagar, that type, that area. Freshta maybe in Hyderabad. I don't know. And Krupa Rani, I have no idea. I have no idea where she is. And yet, I'm able to talk to you. I'm able to take these nonsensical classes of mine, wasting precious time on a daily basis. I'm able to do this very successfully. So the thing, therefore, is that because of this growth of technology, people are not coming any nearer. People are drifting apart. That innocence that might have been there in a childhood friendship is no longer there. When we went to school, there would be somebody called K. Vinod. That's all. K. Vinod. But the same chap now writes K. Vinod Kumar Gaud. Somebody writes some other thing. So people are asserting identities. And when the separate Telangana state movement happened, so many friendships broke because some people were from Andhra, even if they've lived here for 100 years. So one fellow proudly said, I am a son of the soil. And I said, you belong to the state of nature. You know what a son of a soil means? I said, a son of a soil means that you have sprouted out of the ground like a mushroom. That is what Hobbes talks about. So, our exchanges became this. They became this. Then there is Hindutva. Most people I know have joined the Hindutva bandwagon. And I don't want anything to do with those people. I don't, because there is a relentless barrage of information about how India was something and has become something else, how the Muslims and the Christians did this. I'm not interested. I don't want to know all those. These are things that come from the BJP's IT cell. They have even managed to create an Ambedkar voice. Nobody has heard Ambedkar. So nobody knows how Ambedkar actually sounds. So they've even managed to create an audio file of Ambedkar abusing some other leaders. If you listen to it carefully, you know it is not Ambedkar. But I'm digressing. So these also have an exchange built into it. You exchange ideas, and only if your ideas tally, only if your ideas meet, only if that happens, then will you say that, yeah, we are very good friends. There was a friend who used to call me his brother. His brothers used to they used to address me as Anna. Now I've lost touch because this chap has gone the Hindutva way. And the only thing he can talk about, is Indian politics, though he doesn't live in India. And I don't know, so I can't relate to him anymore. I don't relate to him. So it's a group of small friends. So I didn't leave the group, but one friend left the group. The other friend, I didn't leave, but I don't visit that group. And I think they realized that I'm not interested in what they are saying. So this chap used to call me from the States almost once in 2 weeks. And he doesn't call me anymore. So end of story. So that is exchange relationships. They do. There is nothing that escapes exchange relationships. Some form of exchange is there. If it is not money and commodity, then it is ideas, and it is the sharing of beliefs, sharing of ideas that make you either friends, or if you don't share ideas, If you don't believe what the others are believing, then you're no longer friends. That is the reality of capitalist society. So in capitalism, everything is exchange. So then what happens to those people who have nothing to exchange? They don't have money to exchange with a commodity, or if they don't have a commodity to exchange with money, then what do? Then you basically make an abstract commodity out of your ability to labor, to do work. You will tell somebody, please do the work for me, and pay that person. And I told you that that is how the turf that the servant cut is mine by my labor. Technically, it should have been the turf that the servant cut is his by his labor. But how has it become mine by my labor? It has become mine by my labor because when I'm paying you to cut the turf, I'm not paying you just to cut the turf. I'm paying you for your labor, your ability to work, for your ability to work. I'm paying you for that. So that is why the turf that that the servant has cut is mine by my labor, because I paid you wage for your labor, for you to alienate your labor. So it's not the turf that matters, it is your cutting the turf, your ability to cut the turf. That is what matters. So I'm buying that. So you see, this is a capitalist society. And if there is somebody called a servant, it shows that there's a master. The master has money. The servant does not have money. How do you justify this? So Locke has the metaphor of the race. Everyone starts equally at the same time, but everyone does not finish the race equally. One person who can run faster than the others wins the race. So if you're Usain Bolt, you'll run 100 meters and 200 meters faster than anyone else on earth, and you'll win. But Usain Bolt doesn't get a head start. Usain Bolt starts with everyone else. He starts with everyone else. So what is that? That is the equality of beginning. What is the equality of beginning? You're all starting at the same time. Nobody is being given the luxury of starting before others. But just because you begin equally doesn't mean that you will finish equally at the same time. It doesn't mean that. So, what are we talking about? What are we talking about? What we are talking about is Locke justifying inequality as a natural consequence. Usain Bolt runs better. It's not that the other people who are running the race cannot run a race. They are running the race. There are 7 other people running the race with Usain Bolt. But Usain Bolt beats them all. And there was a time in pole vault, there was this chap called Sergei Bubka, who set record after record in pole vault. And he was unbeatable. He was absolutely unbeatable. So he had greater ability. Nadia Comaneci was the first ever gymnast to score a perfect 10 in Olympics on a crossbar in gymnastics. She scored a perfect 10 out of 10. Now a lot of people do. That's a different issue. But Nadia Comaneci did it at a time when other people were not able to do it. So, equality of beginning, same equipment given. Nadia Comaneci can perform so well that she gets a 10 out of 10, while some people get only 8.6, 8.8. I mean, that is also fantastic scores. Those are also fantastic scores. To make it to the Olympics itself is a great thing. To make it to the Olympics itself is a big thing. But when you're winning because of the fact that it is an intangible thing. Nature has given you that ability to do something which others can't. Everybody cannot become a weightlifter. God bless that girl who won weightlifting silver medal for India. I forget her name.
Chanu, I think so.
Yeah, right.
Meera Chanu.
Meera Chand. Yes. So yeah, Karanam Malleshwari was there at one time. So not all can do things. Now, this is the proposition that is being used by John Locke. He wants to prove that inequalities in society of the monetary variety are not socially created. They are not socially created. They are naturally created. And that is why it is important for him to say that all human beings are equal because they all have rationality. They all have rationality. He's saying that to establish the point that everybody gets equality of beginning. Nobody is getting a head start. Nobody is getting a head start. He wants to establish that this is a natural inequality where somebody is more rational than the other. Now, if it is running, athletics, gymnastics, weightlifting, well, you have people doing that. But how do you measure somebody's rationality? What is the measure of somebody's rationality? A weightlifter, if he's doing snatch, as it is called, then you know in snatch, he's lifted the heaviest weight. Okay. The other one is called what? I forget what that other, it's not snatch. You put it on your chest first and then on your head. You know that this person is lifting a greater weight than somebody else. You know that Usain Bolt is running faster. Shh, shh. You know that Usain Bolt is running faster than everyone else. But how do you measure rationality? How? That's an abstract quality. Just as labor is an abstract quality, but labor can be quantified. It can be quantified. I'll ask, how much work can you do in a day? And that can be quantified. But rationality, how do you quantify that? How do you give it a numerical value?
Sir, by IQ.
IQ is not rationality. That is intelligence quotient. That's intelligence quotient. And anyway, that is bunkum. Most of it is maths. So if you don't know maths, you don't have intelligence. In this age and day, people don't talk about one intelligence. People talk about multiple intelligences. Even the petty burglar, shut up. even the petty burglar, sorry, who comes and burgles a house is intelligent. You ask me to go and do thievery in somebody's house, I can't. So that IQ thing is complete rubbish. Everybody accepts that as rubbish now. It doesn't measure anything. Just because you have, uh, you know, the ability to do maths and logic that is mathematically derived. I got a score of 130. I once did an IQ test. That's okay. But I don't think that really tells a story of who I am or what I am. So when people ask me, what does it mean if you have a score of 130? It means that on that particular day, if I took the IQ test, I got a score of 130. Maybe on another day, I take another IQ test, I might get less. I might get less. So IQ is intelligence quotient. Even that cannot be measured by these stupid tests. Okay. So it's the American fascination to quantify everything because they are capitalists, proper capitalists. So how do you quantify rationality? So the criterion that Locke lays down is that if, no, is that if you are in a position where you have earned more than others, that means you're more rational. That's why you have earned more than others. And rational ability is something given to human beings by nature, and therefore any inequalities that you find are natural inequalities. They are natural inequalities, not socially created inequalities. This is what Locke is talking about. The two stages of the state of nature, the second stage having money, all that, and in the first there being limitations, all that is to soften the blow of inequality. It is a way of slowly telling people that, look, if you don't have as much money as he does, that's not because of any social cause. That's not because of any social cause. It is primarily due to the fact that he has more rationality than you. So that is what Locke tells people as a justification for inequalities. So this is the purpose of Locke. I'm sorry. This is the purpose of Locke. Now, having established this, having established that some people are more rational than others, and having established that those who are, let me put that down. This thing that we have seen so far, that all inequalities are natural, they're not social, is a key to understanding his idea of a social contract. If you remember, I told you that his social contract has two stages. Why is Locke saying that there are two stages? His argument is simple. The first stage of the social contract is to establish a civil society. Okay, the first stage of a social contract is basically to establish a civil society. The second stage of the social contract is to establish a state and a sovereign. A state and a sovereign. That is the second stage. Okay. So who is now? Locke has already said, first and foremost, that there is some kind of a rudimentary society even in the state of nature. That is why there is harmony, unlike in the case of Hobbes, where there is complete disharmony. In Locke, you find the argument that there is some kind of rudimentary society. It's not a pre-social it's not a pre-social state of nature. There is some kind of a society. So, but what is a civil society now? That becomes the question. Why is Locke talking about a civil society? Having said that it is, what do I say? Uh, Okay. So this is his argument. People who could not take care of themselves, and that is evident from the fact that they were not able to generate social wealth, personal wealth. And if they could not, take care of themselves, how can you trust them to take care of, how can they be trusted to take care of society itself? How can they be trusted? That's the question he asks. Funnily, this is a question that a number of people ask even in India. This particular thing, that who are our rulers? Who are our rulers? What are our MLAs and MPs? Most of them are not properly educated. Most of them are corrupt. And yesterday, somebody was asking me, and I told him, why are you asking me this question? Because very, very frankly speaking, I will have no answer to this question of yours. He said, will a day come when enlightened people will rule India? Tell me, as a political science teacher, if enlightened people will rule India. And I said, what is enlightenment? How would you say people get enlightened? And he said, those who are properly educated, those who have very good credentials educationally, those who have a vision for the country, those who can do things for the country without being corrupt, those are the enlightened people. I said, how do you find them? He said, that's what I'm asking you. So I said, see, it's all very nice. Down. Now. No. So the thing is, how will they basically be found? I said, your idea that educated people are enlightened is extremely wrong. Is extremely wrong. And I showed him the posts that my very educated friends living abroad with IIT degrees and IIM degrees. One of them had written a post about how Muslims had plundered India and how Nehru's theory of unity and diversity is nonsense. He says what kept this country together is only Sanatana Dharma. That was a post he made. I showed it to him. I said, this is an educated man, not ordinarily educated. He's very highly educated, IIT, IIM, now settled in the halcyon and sought after place in the United States of America, which is the Bay Area or the Silicon Valley as it is called. He's there. He works for the US government now. He works for the US government as a, okay, they don't, in the system in the US is everybody is a contractor. Nobody is a permanent employee except for some levels in the bureaucracy. This fellow is a typical software professional. And talking about IQs, he also posted that he had an IQ of 135 or something. And so he says, that's pretty high. If you get above 150, then you become a member of what is called the Mensa Club, MENSA. But you have to get over 150 for that. There are apparently less than 20 people in the world, less than 20 or 30 people in the whole world who have IQ that is over 150. So I said, this man's IQ is 135. He's a product of IIT. He's then a product of IIM, that to Ahmedabad. IIT also, the good old IITs. He was from Kharagpur, which was, I still think, is one of the best IITs. And all this man can think is how the Muslims plundered India, how the Christians did that. He writes derogatory posts. He calls Y.S. Rajshekhar Reddy Samuel Rajshekhar Reddy. He calls Y.S. Jagannath Reddy Solomon Jagannath Reddy. Those are not their names. YS stands for Yadugari Sandinti. That is what it is. But despite my telling him that this is not a correct thing to do, he still continues to write. Well, there is something wrong with the system when somebody like Y.S. Jagannath Reddy, who should be behind bars, is actually a chief minister. I agree that there is something wrong there. But this kind of attack, on a person, you should be attacking the system, not the person. The person is able to get away because the system is allowing him to get away. The courts in this country have known to have taken into consideration several issues suo motu, SOUSUOMOTU, suo motu. Suo motu basically means that even if nobody complains, the court itself observes something which is terribly wrong and takes up that case, and does justice. That is suo motu. So why isn't any court, especially the Supreme Court, why is it not having passed the legislation that if you have a pending case against you, until you are proven innocent, you cannot contest an election? There is a law. There is a law to that effect. Despite that, about 45% of our MPs have criminal cases pending against them. Not civil cases, criminal cases pending against them. And here, proven guilty, put in jail, all that. He worms his way out, first on bail. Then they said he can't leave Hyderabad. He can't leave Hyderabad. Then they said, okay, he can go to Delhi to make representations. They said, take his passport. Now that's back to him. So this fellow is going on attacking these people personally. My submission to the gentleman who asked me this question was, look at this fellow, 135 IQ. He keeps quoting that IQ and he talks about how India is full of low IQ fellows and things like that. I said, somebody who prides on having a high IQ cannot understand that his target of criticism is not Y.S. Jagannath Reddy. His target of criticism is this entire system, political, judicial. How was he allowed to contest elections? How was he allowed to take oath as a chief minister? Then there was that case with the Reddy brothers, Gali. They are out on bail. They are not in jail. So you have a judiciary that is playing along with the executive. So under Gogoi, when he's the Chief Justice, what do you get? You get the Ram Mandir verdict. You get the Ram Mandir verdict, which is not a proper verdict. And Gogoi is rewarded because he retired immediately after that. He was rewarded with a Rajya Sabha membership. Now, Bobde, the present Chief Justice, is also pandering to the government because I believe he wants to become a governor of a state. So, are these not educated people? Are these not educated people? Don't they know what Modi did in Gujarat for 1 year, 2001 to 2002? 1 year, state-sponsored pogrom, eliminating Muslims. Everybody knows that. But the Supreme Court gave him a clean chit. He had no idea what was happening. Then why was he a chief minister? That should be the question. If he didn't know what was happening in his state, that a pogrom was on, that a section of the Indian population is deliberately targeted, and as chief minister, if he doesn't know that is happening, then he has no right to be chief minister. He should have been removed from chief ministership. That is enlightenment. Not having a degree. Tomorrow, there are 5 of you in this class. I think the total number is over 50. 5 people come to my class. And all of you will get fantastic marks. You'll strut out of Osmania University with 80–90% marks. And what do you know of political science? What do you know of political science? You don't know anything of political science. So how are you, just because you're carrying an MA certificate, should people consider you enlightened?
Sir, in our constitution, after tenure of judges, he should not eligible for any of the posts, no, sir.
Yes, madam.
But
But
how these people went to Rajya Sabha?
they're doing it just as Jagan Mohan Reddy is chief minister. That man has taken it.
By nomination.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean nominated by.
Yes, he was nominated by the government. So that's a, how many people know what is in the constitution? Seriously, How many people know what is what in the constitution?
You said no, sir, that Gogai went for Rajya Sabha.
Yes, he is a Rajya Sabha member.
Hmm.
He is a Rajya Sabha member, and this Bobde will become something or the other. He will, without doubt.
Mhm. But these people are very well known constitution, no, sir.
Hmm?
These judges, sir.
Ah.
Nobody questions them.
Who's questioning them? Have you seen anybody question them? If you start questioning people, you might be put away under UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, in which case you don't even have this thing of habeas corpus. Otherwise, if you're arrested by the police, within 24 hours, you have to be produced in a court of law. But according to the UAPA, which is aimed at terrorists, you can be put away and no reason need be given except that you are a threat to the unity of the country, to the peace of the country.
124.
You'll be put away. Nobody will even know. N.V. Ramana wanted to remove that Sedition Act,
Yes.
the present Chief Justice. He wanted to remove the act, he wanted to remove the sedition clause. He said that was made by the British. We can't use it on ourselves. And that's a very sensible observation, that we can't use a colonial law on ourselves. But whose? Did anyone come out in support? Did anyone come out in support? Nobody came. Okay, I think you have to go to the next class. I'm not going to take the evening classes. I don't think many people will come anyway, and there's no point in my fighting pain just for the sake of talking to 2-3 people. Let's see. We'll take it as it goes. So there is no evening class today also. So we'll see, maybe from next week. All right then. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Goodbye. Thank you.